Believe it or not, Ben Affleck's physical training for his turn as Batman got started way back in 2009, a full 7 years before his version of The Dark Knight would debut in Batman vs Superman. 2009 was when Ben Affleck decided that he was going to go to town on his body and get completely ripped for the aptly named movie, The Town. So Ben connected with Walter Norton, a personal trainer who has a long history of working with high-level athletes. Long story short, the two trained together. Ben Affleck got the abs that he's always dreamed of, and after spending many long days in the gym together, the two hit it off, gaining a deep respect for each other. And this respect turned to love, as it often does. And finally, after the movie wrapped, Ben popped the question, and the two started a family together, living happily ever after. Just kidding. They didn't fall in love, but they did work well together as a trainer and a trainee. So Ben kept Walter on as his trainer to help him stay in shape for movies like Argo, where Ben played a sad-looking fake movie producer, then for Gone Girl, where Ben played a sad, pathetic husband, and then finally, the role Ben's whole career has led up to, a clinically depressed orphan with a thing for bats. Geez, Ben is a little too good at pretending to be sad. Should someone check up on him? Okay, let's put Ben's mental health aside indefinitely and talk about something much more important. Batman. The Batman that Ben Affleck played in Batman vs Superman was bigger, tougher, and more violent than any live-action Batman we had ever seen up to that point. When we got introduced to Ben's Batman, he had already been protecting Gotham for 20 plus years. That's 20 years of fighting, training, and giving teenage boys green spandex and sending them to their deaths to fight psychotic clowns. Batman's a pretty cool guy. So obviously, after all those hard years, this Batman was a tank of a man both physically and mentally. And of course, that means Ben Affleck was going to have to become a bit of a tank himself, which was not going to be an easy task. When his training started for Batman vs Superman, Ben Affleck was in his mid-40s, so even with the help of his lover, trainer, Walter, he wasn't going to be able to transform himself overnight. But Ben and his trainer were smart, and they realized this. So they started his training for Batman a full 15 months before filming for the movie actually started. But they did have one more thing going against them. The studio had some absolutely ludicrous, insane expectations for what they wanted Ben to look like for the movie. When Ben's trainer first started talking to the studio about their vision of what they wanted Ben Affleck to look like, the studio came to the table with a completely out-of-pocket, batshit crazy idea, and casually suggested that Walter make Ben look like a young Arnold. Yes, that Arnold. The "get to the chopper and I'll be back" 7-time Mr. Olympia champion, the greatest bodybuilder of all time Arnold. That Arnold. Walter quickly shot down the idea because he's not a lunatic, which is a great call, one that saved Ben from 15 months of steroid abuse, saved the studio hundreds of thousands of dollars in CGI'd abs, and saved Walter himself from making a promise that he couldn't keep. So instead, the studio and Walter agreed that a more realistic goal for Ben would be to look like a heavyweight MMA fighter. Much more realistic. And this goal heavily impacted the way Walter designed Ben Affleck's Batman training program. See, the program they followed was actually pretty damn amazing, especially by Hollywood standards. Most celebrity training programs are a pile of needlessly complicated bullshit, but not this one. After all, this training program needed to be top-notch if it was going to get Ben strong enough to be able to wear his 70-pound anti-Superman bat tech suit for hours on end while filming. And I think we can all agree that Ben's bat suit was pretty cool and potentially one of the best parts of the movie. And you know what would make you pretty cool and the best part of any movie that you're in? If you had one yourself. And that's where my partners over at SuperX come in. SuperX makes the world's most badass and comfortable superhero-themed workout gear. They've got designs based off all your favorite characters, like Nightwing, Batman, and Spider-Man. Plus, all their outfits are made with super stretch fabric, so you won't have to sacrifice function for form. So go check them out using the link in the description of this video, and use code DEMERCE for a discount and so they know I sent you. But if you see something you like, you gotta act fast because everything they make comes in very limited runs and sells out fast. So check it out, and now back to Ben. So for 15 months, Ben followed a 6-day on and 2-day off workout schedule. So he would train for 6 days straight and then have 2 days off to cry. Each workout day, they would train anywhere from 90 minutes to 2.5 hours. The training program they followed is what I would call functional bodybuilding, which in my opinion is the best way to train. But more on that in a second. Much of Ben's training was done during the filming of Gone Girl, where Affleck was often getting up at 4 a.m. to work out before a 14-hour day of shooting. But according to his trainer Norton, Affleck understood that this was all part of the job. Rather than shying away from the process like a little bitch, Ben showed how much of a daredevil he still is. And he embraced the challenge and actually came to enjoy it. It's as his trainer Walter said, you're not going to have a ton of success if you're scared by the number on the clock. And he certainly is not. He gets it done, and it doesn't matter what time it is. We often worked out at 5 in the morning or late at night. Since Ben was playing a pathetic, confused husband in Gone Girl, they couldn't have him getting all shredded while they were still filming. It would kind of ruin the effect. So they took advantage of his need to look all puffy and fat for the movie by committing that time to bulking up, since they didn't have to worry about the little bit of extra body fat that Ben would gain along the way. But that's not to say that Ben was just eating like a jackass. He had renowned nutritionist Rehan Jahali working with him every step of the way, planning out all of his meals. For him, a typical day of eating looked like egg white omelets and oatmeal in the morning, salad with a double serving of protein and vegetables for lunch, and then fish or chicken for dinner with some Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and broccoli. So pretty standard shit for a Hollywood actor, lots of veggies, lean proteins, etc. My advice for any of you out there who are bulking up, eat more carbs. For some reason, they never eat a lot of carbs in Hollywood. Carbs get you big. You want to be crushing those carbs. Once Ben had created a solid base of muscle and Gone Girl had wrapped, it was time for Ben to ramp up his training and decrease his food intake so he could slowly peel off all that fat and reveal the Bruce Wayne body that was hidden underneath. So that was the overall process of Ben's Batman training. But now let's dive into the specifics of his training program, which in my opinion is one of the best I've ever seen used in Hollywood. The program Ben used was a hybrid program that mixed classic bodybuilding, functional strength training, and cardiovascular work all up into one big pot, then threw it in the oven for 15 months, and then bam, they got vengeance. Typically for big Hollywood movies, actors only need to look athletic and look good. They don't actually need to train their bodies to perform. That's why when you look at a lot of actors' workout programs, they mostly focus on bodybuilding style training, which makes them look sexy, powerful, and athletic, but they won't necessarily actually be those things. Except for sexy. They'll always be sexy. But in Ben's case, they wanted him to not only look like a heavyweight MMA fighter, but they also wanted him to be able to throw his weight around like one without taking a trip in the Bat ambulance to the Bat hospital to get his broken Bat body fixed by a Bat doctor. So that's why they used elements of conventional bodybuilding training to bulk up his frame, elements of functional strength training to teach his body to use all this newly built muscle mass in a coordinated fashion, and finally some cardiovascular work to keep him lean and allow him to shoot long, demanding scenes without burning out. Of course, over the 15 months, Ben's training would change a great deal, but this was the basic structure that they generally stuck to. Each workout would be broken down into 3 blocks. First, the movement prep / warm up. This is where Ben would do some cardio to get his blood moving and his body temperature up, along with some dynamic stretching and foam rolling to make sure that his body was ready for what was coming next. And I know a lot of you gym bros are skipping this block in your own workouts, so cut that shit out. Make sure to always warm up. Your body in 10 years from now will thank you and thank me for giving you this PSA. The next block was the functional bodybuilding block. In this block, Ben would perform a handful of compound and functional strength movements, like farmer's carries, deadlifts, pull-ups, and dumbbell bench press, in the 6 to 12 rep range to build his strength. And then he would also do some isolation movements, like dumbbell lateral raises and tricep pushdowns, to make certain parts of his physique really pop. Then the final block was reserved for some cardiovascular conditioning. This is where Ben would do some kind of timed circuit, then had him moving between functional strength movements and cardio machines with as little rest as possible, and his goal with these circuits was to complete as many rounds as possible within the allotted time. Now, Ben and his trainers never actually released a fully detailed version of his Batman training plan, probably so they can keep all the secrets of Bruce Wayne's physiques for themselves, those greedy. But I'm a man of the people, and I went ahead and used the information that's available and created a full version of Ben Affleck's Batman training myself. It's completely free and you can download it using the link in the description of this video. But keep in mind that this program is pretty advanced, so if you're newer to training or want to train at home and don't have any equipment, then you should check out my 17-week at-home superhero body training plan first and then move on from there. If you like this video, you'll love my video about Christian Bale's most insane body transformation of all time for his role as Batman. Check it out and I'll see you there.